G'day viewers. Well, my international viewers may or may not know we had an election this weekend in Australia for the federal government to decide who's going to run this country for the next 3 or 4 years. And the winner is... yes, Australians voted with a resounding I fucking don't like either of you very much. We have what's called a hung parliament now, and so you can look forward to lots of large penis jokes, starting with me. So, what that actually means, neither of the major parties, the Labor, supposedly progressive party, or the Conservative coalition of the Liberal, capital L Liberals, Conservative in Australia, I know that's always confusing to North Americans, but the Liberals and the National Party, neither of them has more than half the seats in the House, which is the normal way you decide who's government. If you've got the biggest numbers, you get to run things, and the head of your party is Prime Minister. Now, neither of them has the majority, because we have a larger than usual number of non-aligned politicians. There's probably at least 3 independents. 3 guys who all used to be in the National Party, which is the Conservative Party that represents rural areas. These are guys who actually got sick of being part of the coalition, so went out and stood independently and were so loved by their people, they got voted in. And yeah, these guys politically are so far away from me, like Crazy Bob Catter in Queensland, but say what you like about him, and if I was pushed I'd say a lot. His people love him, and that's democracy. He's going to be in for the foreseeable future, and he now has a lot of power. So there's 3 Conservative independents, 1 Green got elected to the lower house, which was history-making. First time in a general election a Green got in. That's right here in Melbourne, for the seat of Melbourne. And there may be another independent in Tasmania who was former Green and is now independent, but there are still some seats up for grabs. A lot of them are so close, with all the thousands of people in the electorate, it's going to come down to a really small number of votes. So even who's got the final number of seats, that's not going to be settled for ages, because it's going to be so close that the close ones, they're going to demand recount, recount, recount. In the last election, I think one person got in with only 15 votes ahead of next. The first time the Labor person got in, recount demanded, the Liberal person won the recount, another recount demanded, Liberal person still won, so they won it. There'll probably be a bit of that action going on for the next week or so, but it comes down to, well, who's the friggin' government then? Constitutional lesson, kids! If nothing else, this craziness has A, made politics interesting in this country again, B, might wake a few fucking people up to some things about our constitution that they're blithely ignorant of, like, I don't want to be a republic, I love the Queen. Remember how I said whoever's the majority party, the head of their party is automatically Prime Minister? That person is not the legal head of state in Australia. That person just runs the government. The legal head of state, because we're part of the British Empire, it's the Queen, or in practical terms, the Queen's vice-regal, non-elected appointee, the Governor-General, currently Quentin Dempster. I think I just got the name wrong. Didn't Quentin Dempster used to be on the ABC? It's a woman and her name's Quentin, and I'm confused. I should have written that down before I got in here. But we'll move on. So, the Governor-General is appointed to represent the Queen by the government of the day. This current Governor-General was appointed by the Labor government, but is supposed to be impartial. And don't think this shit can't go wrong. Look up November 11th, 1975, where it wasn't even during an election, but the legally elected government of the day was sacked by the Governor-General, Sir John Kerr, an unelected individual. So there's some funny shit in our constitution. But, okay, the most likely thing that happens, if the Liberal Party coalition with Nationals has about the same number of seats as the Labor Party, if there's not a huge difference, like the Liberals have done extremely well and may have 2 or 3 seats more than Labor at the end of the day, or maybe the same, Labor may be 1 or 2 in front. We won't know that for a while. But if Labor thinks they can hold their own with support from the independents as a minority government, the Prime Minister, and she's still Prime Minister until there's a change of government, Julia Gillard, goes to visit the Governor-General and says, swear me in as the head of a minority government, which in all probability the Governor-General will do. Now then, one of two things happen. Either everyone agrees to go along with that and say, okay, we'll support you as a minority government, but they won't be able to get anything done because they won't have the numbers. Or the Liberals think they've got enough support from Conservative independents to say, nah, let's roll these guys, and they call for a vote of no confidence. And if they win that, the House has said they do not have confidence in Labor to form a minority government, then the Governor-General gets to go, well, I guess I will now invite Tony Abbott to form a minority government with the support of the minor players. Or, who knows, they might play grown-ups. Julia Gillard, head of Labor, Tony Abbott, head of the Liberal Party, might actually talk to each other and say, okay, look, constitutionally, again, notwithstanding what happens in the next couple of days with results for the outstanding seats, let's just say Labor and Liberal are pretty even. So they might get together, act like grown-ups, and Labor might say, look, constitutionally, it's in our favour, we should get to form a minority government. And the Liberals might not want to seem like, dicks and cause trouble with a vote of no confidence, and they might go along with it. It's pretty weird, the number of things that could happen. Or they might get together and they may have talked to the independents, and the independents might say, no, the vote's gone so heavily against Labor, we're not going to support you. We think Tony Abbott should have the opportunity to form a minority government. And Labor and Liberal might get together and say, yeah, you know what, okay, they've spoken their piece. I don't want the embarrassment of a vote of no confidence. I will, and this would still be Julia Gillard, would go to the Governor-General and say, I recommend you swear in Tony Abbott as the head of a minority government. But yeah, I actually just said politicians act like grown-ups. I know, right? What are the chances? We'll see. At the very least, like I said, this has made politics interesting again in this country. If there's a really big shit fight, people saying, oh, will there be another election? No, probably not, because there's allowance in our constitution for somebody to have a minority government. So whichever side gets, I guess, the majority of the independents to say, we'll support you as a minority government. In other words, we won't vote against you in a vote of no confidence. That's who's going to end up forming the government. So we might get Liberal, we might get Labor, we might get Labor who then fail a vote of no confidence. We might get Liberals who somewhere down the line fail a vote of no confidence. What's likely to happen is whoever is a minority government isn't going to serve out their whole terms. There's two ways under the Australian Constitution a government can go to an election before the end of the term. One is they fail a vote of no confidence. A majority of people in the House say, we don't have confidence in you to maintain government. That forces an election. Second is the governing party themselves. If they're trying to push legislation through and it gets knocked back because they don't have the numbers to get it through, they can call what's called a double dissolution election, so we have another election. So what's likely to happen, whoever forms a minority government probably won't serve out their whole term. It'll go one of two ways. If everything's going well for them and they think things are on their side and the electorate is going to vote them an increased majority if they have another election, they'll push some legislation that the other side will refuse to agree to, so the legislation will get rejected and they'll have a double dissolution election. Or if whoever forms minority government goes to shit, and I'm looking mostly at the Labor Party here who are probably going to eat themselves, then when the other side thinks they're really, really weak, they'll call a vote of no confidence. If they think they've got the support of the independents to go with them, they'll call a vote of no confidence, the government will lose the vote and will go to an election. That's the probable course of action. It could go all sorts of ways, and I'll tell you two things for free. If Labor do form a minority government, I'm just not going to have a conversation with a Liberal voter ever, because it will just be so fucking boring with the lack of legitimacy, blah, primary vote. Look, okay, politics is not fucking fair. It's not fair, it's not just, it's about politicians doing whatever they can do to get in power. And whoever forms a minority government will be doing so according to the Constitution. So to waste time blathering on about, oh, not legitimate, and you can be sure if the Liberal coalition forms a minority government, Labor supporters won't shut the fuck up. I won't go on about legitimacy, but I'll probably get way more political because they'll probably introduce policies I really hate and I'll have fun attacking them. With the Labor Party, I was more just disappointed in how pathetic they were, and I really hated one or two of their policies. With the Liberals, I'll probably hate all of their policies, but I won't waste time talking about, oh, not a legitimate government. It's the fucking Constitution. Whoever forms a minority government, and that's the only option at this point, someone forms a minority government, they're constitutionally the government. So, yeah, if it's Labor, I'm just not going to engage with Liberal voters because it will be really boring. The second thing, besides the Liberals have done really well, are really happy and deserve to be really happy, and you can laugh at me because I made it really clear how much I oppose them, and you get to go, ha 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 ha, we did better than the guys you wanted in. Absolutely fair. You get that opportunity now. Second one who did really well were the Greens. They got at least one person in the lower house, which was historic, and they do seem like they're going to have a significant number in the Senate, which gives them a balance of power in voting there, although those guys don't take their seat till halfway through next year, another complication of the election process. But yes, the Greens leader, and I heard a couple of other Greens people talked about a green slide. I will tell you now, Green supporters, if you use the fucking word green slide in front of me, I will stab you in the fucking face. Consider yourself warned.